Please subscribe, like, and share.
This afternoon, there are three briefs that we have to share with you. The first is that on Tuesday, Ghana's emergency healthcare service delivery will receive a major boost with over 300 ambulances, over 300 EMT drivers and support staff after a ceremony here in Accra. I'll give you details of what will happen on Tuesday. I'll give you details of what has happened so far in preparation towards this boost towards emergency healthcare delivery. The second brief is the fact that with the improved economic outlook, as was announced by Moody's, I think yesterday, the government is of the view that it is a testament of confidence and it signals hope in the current economic management model. And I'll tell you why government is of that view. And finally, government continues with efforts to win the fight against corruption following its recent improved scores on two corruption reports that were recently published. One is the Corruption Perception Index, and then one is the Global Corruption Barometer. And both give us very good reason to be optimistic in the fight against corruption. So let me go into the details. Emergency healthcare service in Ghana is to receive a major boost from this week following the dispatch of over 300 ambulances, over 300 EMT drivers, and over 300 support staff, as well as 30 dispatches to the 275 constituencies nationwide. The ambulances were procured under the Government Infrastructure for Poverty Eradication Program, currently being implemented by the Ministry of Special Development Initiatives. You will recall that since the establishment of the Ghana Ambulance Service with an initial investment by the Kufuor administration in 2004 of some 10 ambulances across 7 stations, emergency healthcare has in recent years literally ground to a halt, leaving the ambulance service with just a handful of functioning ambulances and a handful of emergency medical technicians. In line with the pre-election commitments to improve healthcare delivery generally, the Kufuor administration has invested in this major boost to emergency healthcare, or the pre-hospital emergency healthcare, and expects that it will augment some of its other efforts at improving healthcare delivery in Ghana. Now, first of all, some 307 ambulances approximately are out on Tuesday, or are being dispatched on Tuesday to the various centers. Clearance has also been given for the recruitment of 575 emergency medical technicians, some of them drivers and other ancillary services, out of which over 400 have already been recruited and trained. I'll give you details of that shortly. The initial deployment of EMT staff are drawn from this about 450 and some previous staff, and an additional 900 staff have received clearance to be recruited. That will bring the number to about some 1,400 additional staff to the ambulance service. Now, Tuesday's commissioning by the President follows a completion of training of these paramedics, the fitting of tracking devices upon receipt of the full complement of the ambulances. It is a requirement that the manufacturers, through the suppliers, provide user training for the users of these equipment, and that has now been completed. The training of these paramedics and installation of emergency devices now paved way for the commissioning and distribution from Tuesday. Immediately after the commissioning by His Excellency the President, the vehicles will be dispatched to their respective regions and centers before they arrive at the constituencies. Government expects that the ambulance service will maintain this investment to ensure longevity, It is further expected that this injection will be put to good use to serve the good people across the country and add to the other ongoing efforts aimed at securing lives. Additionally, we encourage all to take note that it is out of the budgetary allocation of the city equivalent of $1 million per constituency that this project is being funded. This fleet is being funded. This, in addition to the other initiatives of the Ministry of Special Development Initiatives, shows clearly that the IPEP program is yielding results. This afternoon, I have the privilege of having with us Mr. Foster Ansong Brijan, who is the Deputy Director of Operations at the National Ambulance Service. If you may just rise for us to acknowledge you. Subsequently, as we put out some more information, he may join me to respond to some of your queries that may come up. Our second brief is the fact that, as I'm sure you have noticed already, there's a change in Ghana's economic outlook that was announced by Moody's, and they've changed the outlook from stable to positive. Ghana's economic management team and the government of Ghana welcomes it and commits that it will do more to ensure that we stay on this path. And here I'll provide you some more details. The government of Ghana welcomes the change in the nation's economic outlook from stable to positive by the Moody's rating agency. The economic management team is very pleased at this outlook change and commits to do more of the things that have ensured that we are now on this path. The change in outlook is a very important development, especially in the context of our ratings history over the years. Now, according to the International Credit Ratings Agency, the decision to assign a positive outlook reflects their rising confidence that the country's institutions and policy settings will foster improved macro and fiscal benefits over the medium term for the people of Ghana. And this is in part as a consequence of the reforms implemented by the government of Ghana in recent years. These reforms are beginning very clearly to bear fruit, as seen, for example, in the turnaround of many of the fiscal and macro indicators that we ever so often speak about. Though pressures and risks remain generally, and this is evident in some of the revenue challenges, some of the arrears that still exist, some of the contingent liabilities, particularly in the energy sector that we've spoken about, though all of these exist, it is quite clear that the current levels of stability that have been recorded, growth, and the closing inequality give confidence to all, including the global economic watchers. Receiving this news, the head of the economic management team, His Excellency the Vice President, Mahmoud Bawumia, has expressed the following sentiments, and I'd like to share them with you. First is that this certifies that the results achieved so far from the first 3 years of economic recovery that the managers of the economy have been embarking upon are true. Contrary to the attempts by some to run down Ghana's recent economic gains, this is further evidence that global economic watchers who are examining our economic data see clearly that Ghana's economy is back on track and the future looks even better once we stay on this path. Secondly, this outlook improvement is further evidence that all, including the global economic community, are clear in their minds and expect that as Ghana continues to stay on this economic management track, a positive outlook awaits us and the dividends will be for all of us to benefit. Things can only get better. All, including the global economic community, can have hope once we stay on this path. Now, I quickly want to reiterate the basis on which Moody's has revised our outlook from stable to positive. And they rate, among other things, the very robust GDP growth performance and outlook. You will notice that the key supportive factor for Ghana was the significantly increased GDP growth of 8.1 and 6.3 in 2017-2018 respectively, up from the 2.9, 2.2 and 3.4 that we recorded in 2014, 2015 and 2016 before the Akufo-Addo administration assumed power. Another thing that has accounted for this is the macro stability that we've succeeded as an administration in restoring despite the global and domestic challenges. A third is the fiscal consolidation that has been restored, has been sustained, most importantly, even after the IMF program. Additionally, the improved debt management situation currently is a basis for this outlook. Sometimes we get caught up in quoting the nominal CD debt, and then you hear the interpretation that it means the government has borrowed some more. The experts who look at the numbers explain quite clearly that that is not the case. The proactive debt management strategies that we've put in place give all of them a lot more confidence. Additionally, the very strong institutional reforms, particularly in the financial services sector, that have brought sanity and robustness account for this. The administration, through its economic management team, will continue to ensure that the gains made are not compromised, even in this election year. The administration will further ensure that the key pillars that have contributed to this improved outlook, the restored macro stability, rebounded growth, consolidated fiscal position, improved debt management, and the strong institutional reforms will continue. The people of Ghana can be rest assured that the economic management team will continue with the uphill climb of building a strong economy for all. And all are encouraged to continue with the necessary cooperation witnessed so far to this end. The final brief that I have to share with you this afternoon is that the Akufo-Addo administration will continue with efforts to ace the fight against corruption, even as Ghana continues with our improved CPI and GCB scores recently recorded. The government of Ghana pledges to continue with the recent efforts that have led to improved scores in the recently released Corruption Perception Index and the Global Corruption Barometer. You'll recall that recently 2 key corruption reports have been released. One is the Corruption Perception Index that, among other things, mostly studies what people think about corruption or the perception. And then there's a global, and then the decline started, 47, 43, 40. By the time we were exiting 2016, we had come down to about 43. You would recall the various allegations of corruption and perception and some of the cases that had to go to court beginning in those years. You will notice that from 2018, as the Akufo-Addo administration started its work, we have begun a steady climb up from 40 to 41. And in the year 2019, which mostly is a survey of the 2018 incident, you will find that we are maintaining that score of 41. The administration believes that it's because of the, I'll go through those things, but not this alone. There's also the Global Corruption Barometer, 10th edition, that was also recently released. And if you can project that for us as well. A few specific questions that were also put up. I ask you colleagues to pay attention to the screen to my left. So for example, they benchmark between 2015 and 2019. And they ask simple questions, for example, based on people who used public services in the previous 12 months, bribery rates. Overall bribery rates, people's view is that from 36 in 2015 to about 33 now, that's a downward trend. In education or public schools, from 24% down to about 15%. In health, 17 to about 12. And you find the details that even for the police that often is accused of being corrupt, the Global Corruption Barometer, put together by Transparency International and Afrobarometer, suggests that, for example, if you take 2015, it's about 58%. If you come down to 2019, it's come down to about 34%. So there's still a lot of work, but the numbers are speaking for themselves. There's a separate question. Has corruption level changed in the previous 12 months? Benchmark 2015 to 2019. So for those who say corruption is increasing, in 2015, 76% were of the view that corruption was increasing. According to the same survey they put out, by 2019, only 33% hold that view. That's a sharp drop of over about 40%. If you take the flip side, those who think that corruption is reducing, only 8% thought it was reducing in 2015. Today, 36% seem to think so. So when somebody goes around saying that the fight against corruption has been totally lost, that is not the view as the data shows when the experts conduct the survey. If you take another question, for example, corruption by institution, That would be to the extreme right. If you can just scroll there to the extreme right. Corruption by institution. In 2015, President or Prime Minister, 47% were of the view that the President or Prime Minister of the country at the time or that institution was involved in corruption. Today, there are only 27% who hold that view. Sharp drop of about 200 basis points, or 20% downwards. If you take even MPs, used to be 48 down to 32. Government officials in general, 53 down to 35. And the list goes on and on and on. The very final question, is the government doing a good or bad job of fighting corruption? Those who say a good job, in 2015, this is the benchmark from the report, only 25% thought that the government was doing a good job in its efforts at fighting corruption. In their 2019 data as they put out, 60% hold that view. A bad job, 71% thought the government was doing a bad job then. Only 30% should, hold that view today. That's about 40% drop, or about 400 basis points. Those who are indifferent, 4 to 10%, and still those who refuse to answer is 0. So both reports give us cause to believe that the initiatives that the administration has put out in our quest to fight corruption are beginning to yield results. And there's a plethora of initiatives, including improved funding to the anti-corruption agencies such as SHRAJ, the Auditor General's Department, setting up new offices like the Office of the Special Prosecutor. The establishment of the OSP and the appointment that was made there further bolster the kind of things that have been going on to help in our fight against corruption. Now, thorough investigations have also been conducted on all corruption allegations that have been leveled during these last 3 years. And the government has also instituted the following measures to minimize human interaction in public services, which contributes to a lot of corruption. For example, activity at the ports, which is now going through a digitized process, the DVLA processes, the passport processes, among others, and the broader digitization exercise, which seeks to reduce human interaction in public services and therefore reduce the propensity for corruption. While government continues to perform its role in the fight, it urges the broader society and stakeholders to complement our efforts in this battle.
We have a warranty period of 3 years or 100,000 kilometers of travel. So for the next 5 years, the ministry is having a service and maintenance agreement to ensure that the suppliers continue to maintain the ambulances within these 5 years. We know that the ambulance are supposed to have a minimum lifespan of 5 years. So measures are being put in place that for the next 5 years, there will be service and maintenance agreement to ensure that the vehicles are serviced regularly and parts are available to ensure that we maintain them so that they can live up to their maximum lifespan. On the issue of the previous ambulances procured, in which the equipment were not fixed, as we speak now, the Ministry of Health is dealing with it because they are not yet in our hands. So the Ministry of Health is handling that issue with the suppliers. So that one I can't say much about them. Number of ambulances available as we speak. All the 307 ambulances have arrived in the country. As we speak, we are just preparing them, arranging them nicely so that on the Tuesday 28th, they will be commissioned. So all the ambulances are in the country now, and all the necessary measures in terms of tracking, in terms of labeling, everything that needs to be done are ongoing. I was just coming from the State House where we were working on them, and we believe that by Tuesday everything will be set for us to commission them. I think these were the main issues. Yes, sir. Thank you.